Hey everyone, welcome to Love with Francesca, where we deep dive into relationships, self-love, and the empowering journey to authentic connection and healing. Today we have with us an incredible matchmaker that lives in New York City. Her name is Alina. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Francesca. I'm so happy that you launched your podcast.
Yeah. So you were so gracious with me. I know we connected a few months ago, and I was like, I don't know, I'm figuring it out. And then I kind of reached out to you recently and I was like, I'm ready, let's do it. And you were super on board. So thank you. That was awesome.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, the work that you do, and what inspired you? What brought you to this kind of work?
Sure. So I live in New York City and I lived here for 9 years. I'm originally from Russia. And what inspired me is that I was very good at my job. I was a very corporate, lady, basically achieving all the goals and things like that. But then at one point, I got a burnout. And that was the moment when I was like, I don't have anybody here. I have my friends, but then when I come back home, it's pretty lonely, and especially in New York City, and
Hmm.
when you're an immigrant, right? So that kind of made me think about my goals and more about building and finding a meaningful relationship. So that was a journey for me. And when long story short, I launched my singles events in February, and my boyfriend, he was not my boyfriend at the time, but he bought the first ticket to my first event ever, the same day I published.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cute. I love that.
Yes, yes. So also like I've been doing it for quite some time before, and I accumulated a database of people, and then I started matchmaking people. I was
Mhm.
studying how to do that as well. And I guess my goal is to create meaningful connections, friendships, build a community, and mostly romantic. And
Yeah.
so that's what I do. So people hire me to find them the love of their life.
That's beautiful. That's so cool. We were just kind of clarifying like our different jobs before getting on the call, and I was explaining to you kind of that I'm not a dating coach because I've never dated in my life. I don't really know much about dating. I think I would be absolutely terrible at dating. I think I would need to hire someone like you to help me out in the dating world. And I can't, I'm so excited to interview you because I have a lot of clients or friends that are single or are dating and ask me for advice and ask me for questions because they're like, Francesca, you're a therapist. You know about relationships. You must know about dating. And I'm like, no, dating in the modern world confuses me. I've never made like a profile. I don't know who's supposed to pay for the date. Like these are all questions, that very
Right,
much I think are top of mind for people. So
right.
I'm curious, yeah, like I guess where do I want to get started? Because I have so much that I want to ask you and I'm trying to figure out where to start. What are some of the common, like who are the type of people that you see that typically come and ask for your service?
I would say people that have the sense of urgency, that maybe they've been frustrated for a while or they're not able to meet somebody because they're busy. And so
Mhm.
they outsource it, right? So delegation is what they trust, and they just don't have time and energy. And or some people are just not able to figure out what's going on, that they're not able to meet their partner.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Like a lot of clients that I have that are single in, I'll say like an older age in the sense like they're past like 35 or something, right? They have that sense of urgency, especially if they want to have children, especially if they are like very career-driven women. So, they get home late, they're tired, they've been working all day. Like the last thing they want to do is not that they want to do, but the last thing they have like the real time and energy for to dedicate is dating, which from what I've seen from my friends takes a long time to like swipe, find the person, message them. You're having a bunch of different conversations. You want to be intentional in every conversation, and it does take up a lot of time.
It does. It's a second job.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yeah. So that would be hard to do if you're very busy. Or if you
Ab-
have children, maybe you are like, I have to take care of my kids. I don't have time to be like chatting online all day with people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then our job, my job is to vet people,
Hmm.
so I have to ask those difficult questions and then also do a light search of that person just to make sure, they might be good on paper, but is that the truth? So
Right. Right. So there's another level of like guarantee and safety and security when you're going on that date. You already know like, okay, Alina's vetted them, we're good to go. I don't
right,
also have to be like nervous about like, is this person who they say they are, or are they gonna like, catfish me or something? Because that's a reality that can happen.
exactly, exactly. We have to
Just
talk to them.
yeah. So, excuse me, the sun decided to come out last minute. So I'm curious, like the people that, come to you, I'm thinking of the people that I've worked with. So, you go through this process where you're dating and you're trying to figure it out, and you maybe have a relationship or two, and I hate to use the word failed, but these relationships end, and it takes a while for someone to get to the point where they're like, you know what? I'm going to go hire someone and I'm going to outsource this. Do you find that it's difficult for people to like admit that they need help in this area of their life?
I think so. I think it's difficult because we have to be vulnerable with ourselves to admit we're not good at something,
Yeah.
right? Whatever that area is. So it's just more, I don't know, for some reason, personal life is just more of people are very secretive about it, or for some reason, there's a factor of shame
Yeah.
is present
Yeah.
for people to be single. And I always say, like, if you can't afford hiring a matchmaker, that's fine. You have to be your own matchmaker, and you have to first work around the shame part of saying, look, I'm single. Can you set me up with somebody? Like, you have to be proud of it. Like, okay, I'm
Right.
single. Like, I'm trying to figure it out. That's just my journey. And there's
Yeah.
no shame in that.
Right. Like just kind of like acknowledging and being honest about that and being okay with where you're at. And I think
Exactly.
that's true. And I'm curious if because you work both with men and women, right? I'm curious if you see this more with women. I just have more female clients, so that's kind of my experience. But I find that from what I've noticed, women are harder on themselves when they're single. There's a lot more shame associated to it. It's almost like they failed. It's almost like just because they're a woman, they should be good at finding the right person and being in a relationship. But I don't think that's necessarily true.
Right. I think it um definitely women are a little bit harder on themselves, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't matter which area of life it is. That's just what I observe.
Hmm.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And what are some of the common misconceptions that people have about matchmaking?
One of them is that it's for, I don't know, desperate clients, or
Mm,
that it's for, people that are just only extremely rich. But
yeah.
that's definitely a misconception because I've had people that are not, they're just professionals, but they just want to find that person. So
Yeah.
they invest money with a matchmaker. They actually invest their focus, right? So it's an investment. Of course, it shouldn't be your last money that you wanted to, let's say, freeze your eggs, and instead of that,
Sure.
you're hiring a matchmaker. Yeah.
Sure.
But like anything, it's an investment, right?
Yeah.
The more invested you are, the better results you will get.
That makes a lot of sense. And I love how you frame it as an investment because I think it really is that. Like you, it's it's just like put your money where your mouth is. Like it's like if you want to have someone in your life and you want to create that relationship, if you have the energy, like you said, if you can afford it and you have the time and energy, amazing, invest that. If you don't have the time and energy, then that's just the monetary exchange is just another form of investment and putting value into what it is that you want and really going for it. And like it's interesting how you were saying too that people assume that it's like for very desperate people. And I think that's where I was thinking before too, like, yeah, I would imagine it must be hard for people to admit that they need help with that sort of thing. Because most people just assume that we're like born knowing how to find like the love of our life when like I've been in a relationship for 12 years, and for most of them, I was doubtful and confused and didn't know if I was in the right relationship because it's difficult. Even when you find the person, it's difficult to know.
Definitely. It's constant work and it's not, there's nothing wrong about it, right? So we both
Yeah.
have to be accountable in a couple. And yeah, it's an investment also because I've noticed, and that's just like whenever you study sales and you are in sales, if it's free, people don't appreciate it. People don't put time
Mm,
and effort into it. And when people ask me, can you do it for free? And for me, it's just like, of course, I answer them, you can start for free, you can join our database for free. But if you're actively looking, that's just a service. It's almost like asking an HR firm, are you going to work?
yeah.
What
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so much investment in the process. We have to
Yeah.
talk to so many people. We have to recruit the singles. It's just, I think people don't understand how much time and energy it takes in general
Right.
just to present certain candidates.
Right.
So, yeah, it's not free.
Yeah, yeah. And I was actually curious, I hope this isn't too boring of a question for you, but for people who don't know, what does the process of matchmaking look like? Like, what is it that you maybe even do behind the scenes before you even present two people to each other, for example?
Yes. So actually, when I talk to the client, I have to see potential client, right? I have to see if we're a match, right? Sometimes I have to turn away people because it's just that they say something in the way that but they're not ready, or we're just not aligned,
Hmm.
And when we sign the contract, and I try to take people on that are coachable because if they're very rigid
Mm.
in their, let's say, search, that means they're just not open. They're not open. So sometimes if it doesn't work, anyway, so we
No,
have
that makes a
to.
lot of sense. I love that you're including that. Yeah, because it's like it makes sense that you would need to find someone that's it's almost like you're also trying to find someone that is truly open to the experience that you're trying to set them up for because someone can say that they want someone in their life, but then their actions and their behaviors contradict that completely. And so and then it's kind of on you, right? Like as the matchmaker, if you put someone who says they want someone but isn't actually, I don't know, doing the right steps to have someone in their life, that's like on you on your reputation if you put them in front of someone else. So it makes sense that you need to be very intentional about who you bring into, to work with, but also to be like, okay, yeah, you're good to now present to someone else.
Right, exactly. And then after that, we do in-depth interview and create a profile for them, like take pictures, professional pictures, also do
Mm.
we have to see what the client's strong sides are because sometimes people they have a certain image of themselves and they stick to it while the third party like us we can actually see like what is the strongest I know
Yeah,
characteristics, and that's what the other person will probably fall in love with. And
yeah.
yeah, and just like the process of peeling an onion, I always say, like, clients come, and sometimes they discover things about themselves that they didn't know in the process, and we have to peel that
Oh,
onion. Yeah.
that's
And
so
then
beautiful. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. And then the process of search. that's when we start searching for the person. We have to go through at least most of the time like 20, maybe 10 candidates before we present the one, right? Of course, it depends. Sometimes it's just like, oh my God, this is the guy, but or the girl, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, we try to, and then we have to make sure there's consulting in place where we have to make like we have to arrange a meeting for the both of the people and to see how the first date went. It goes into the process of feedback, and then we're trying to foster that connection. But if it
Hmm.
doesn't work, that means we just have to take that feedback, improve our search, and
Hmm.
see what we can do better next time to make it work.
Mm. And how long do you continue working with someone? Like, say you match them with someone and it's working well, at least for the first few dates. How long do you then follow that potential couple or that client that you're working with?
Right. So let's say if they took a package where they're dating for half a year and the first match is working, so we'd put it on pause and see how it goes. So we don't want to for the clients to be like, oh, maybe there's a better option out there. If it's working, why not to explore that? No pressure. Go and explore it. And if you have to come back, you can come back.
Yeah.
So that's the way it works. And I don't believe in better the grass is greener on the other side. If there's something that
Mm,
attracted you and that person, I believe it's better to experience it, go through that experience and see how it goes. And
hmm,
if it didn't work, see what didn't work and why. So
hmm.
that's a process.
It's so interesting because as someone who literally knew nothing about matchmaking up until my conversation with you right now, I guess I hadn't realized how much coaching goes into it as well throughout the process, before, during, after. Um, yeah, because and that's something that I see as well in my work is even when you're in a relationship, even deep into a relationship, months, years, whatever you want, you're like, oh, but maybe there's still something better out there. And that's when we get into trouble because it's like, just focus on what you have in front of you and try and give it your all, like give it a real chance. There's no way you're going to be able to see if this actually works out if you're always kind of looking out there and comparing it to also comparing it to like the best version that someone presents, because it's easy to look out there and be like, oh, but this person, this and this and that. And it's like, okay, but go spend the next 6 months with that person. Like you're gonna get to know all of the sides of them that then you don't like and have to figure out how to deal with.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the illusion. And that's why
Yeah.
I think it's challenging to date these days is because everybody has the illusion that there's always somebody better out there because everybody's so accessible. But then if you don't focus on one connection that you think has a potential, you're
Hmm.
missing out a lot, right? And
Yeah.
you have that illusion that somebody else is better because as you said they present the best version of themselves, but
Hmm.
once you get to know them maybe that's probably like a facade, right? So it's important to pause, explore, even if it doesn't work, it's a process, right? You can learn from it, what hasn't worked, what
Hmm.
things like that. So it's very important.
I love that. And in a city like New York, what are some of the specific issues or challenges that people deal with? I would imagine this is a big challenge because you're in like a big city with a lot of, you know, a lot of people, a lot of good-looking people, a lot of financially stable people, a lot of
Right.
career people. It's like, oh my God, I have so many options, you know?
I think the I would say this. There's this misconception that New York is a city of millionaires and everybody's watching Carrie and Big from
Yeah.
from Sex and the City. And I loved that TV show when I was like in my 20s. And then when I was in my 30s, I rewatched it. I was like, oh my God. Mr. Big, as a character, yes, of course, there are gentlemen like that in New York City,
Yeah.
and there are many of them, but he was emotionally unavailable and she was, anxious, type of,
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
person. So basically, a lot of times she just liked to suffer, and she was after the guy who was not as invested as she was. So of course that's what we see on TV and we glamorize it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the toxicity of culture right now, is to say this is like, you're supposed to suffer for love. But from
Hmm.
my experience, the real connection is where the two of you are investing into it. And
Hmm.
the real beauty is when you find that person who is eager to meet you halfway, but you also have to be ready for that person, because a lot of people don't know how to receive genuine connection and love.
Hmm.
And I think that's where the challenge is. So
100%.
that illusion is, yeah, is real.
I think I love it. I love that you're sharing that because it's such just like a real part of creating a relationship is the person on paper can be like everything you've ever wanted, and on paper you can look perfect, but then when push comes to shove, like, are they able to have an uncomfortable conversation? Are they able to work through conflict? Are they able to invest in you in the same way that you're investing in them? Are they able to reciprocate, like what you were saying just now? And those are things that you just find out as time goes on. And like you said, it's all just a big learning lesson of like, I was talking with a client recently this week that she was seeing this guy and then he did something that she didn't really like. So she kind of told him and then he disappeared. And her first reaction was kind of like, oh my God, I made, there's this like expression, sorry, I'm translating it in my brain of like how women like scare men away. And I see that a lot, that we have this like narrative that like women scare men away. And I'm like, no, you can't scare someone away. Like if someone is scared and they disappear, that's on them. That's their responsibility. You can't like intentionally force someone to be scared. Like it's not your fault if someone gets scared.
Absolutely. That means they're just not invested.
Right. Right. Or
Not.
ready for like,
Mhm.
yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, if they're not able to talk about serious conversations. So, for instance, if he say, "I'm just not ready yet," and the woman takes it, "Oh, I feel so bad. He's not ready yet." Well, he told you right away he's not ready yet. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean that's a green light for you
Right.
to fix that, right?
Right.
And I feel like a lot of times ladies are trying to fix,
Hmm.
while it was never there, right? So it's just for you to say thank you for this experience. You're not ready yet. So I have
Yeah.
to move on. I have to find somebody who is ready.
Yeah.
And it's not a manipulation, but it's more about, you have to understand that if that person is not ready, they're just not ready for you, and you have to leave it alone and go after the connection that is there to meet you at the same level that you are at in terms of the connection.
Mhm. I'm listening to you and I'm like, your clients must be so happy to have you in their lives because the amount of I could only imagine like if I was a client of yours, like I leave a date, this guy is like clearly not the guy. I'd be like, the first person I want to call is you and be like, why didn't this work out? Like help me out and just kind of receive like your words of wisdom about relationships and how they work. And I think it's really beautiful that you not only help set people up, but it sounds like you charge, whatever fee that you charge, but you charge a service because it really is a service in terms of the amount of coaching and support that goes into the process to really help set someone up for success with
Right.
whoever it is that they meet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, first of all, for the compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot to take care of my clients. That's why I'm selective who I work
Hmm.
with, right? They have to be
Yeah.
open-minded. They have to be able to receive my feedback. They have to be, I don't make them listen to what I have to say because whether I like it or not, I'm here to kind of guide you. But at the same time, the person has to make those decisions
Right.
and go through that experience.
100%. 100%. Kind of staying on the same page, I'm curious. So this is, I want to dedicate this podcast to really helping people develop self-love and develop, especially a healthy relationship um, with themselves initially, right? Because then when you understand yourself, when you're aware of yourself, when you love yourself, kind of like you were saying, people that are going to open to feedback, open to learning, everything else comes easier in life. Like you're also able to attract someone that is more aligned to who you are because you know yourself better, right? So I'm curious, what does the role of whether it's like self-love or self-awareness, what's the role that that plays that you find in this process with your clients?
Um, well, I want to work with clients that know that nobody's perfect and
Mm.
we're not here to find somebody who is perfect. You know, if the client comes with a list of, I'm just exaggerating, but like
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
80 items that they're looking for, including
Yeah.
height, including like very superficial, this is just
Yeah.
not my client. And if they're not open to my feedback, I'm just basically, you know, categorizing them in a way that they're not ready yet, they're not open, right?
Mm.
So, and yeah, during that, I'm just here to be honest with them. I'm gonna say, I'm not working with clients who only look for like superficial features. I'm
Mm-hmm.
here to kind of looking for a person who will be a great character for you as well, not only
Mm-hmm.
superficial
Mm-hmm.
characteristics. And that is important because self-love, the ultimate goal is to accept all of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are judging somebody, you have to understand you're judging that part of yourself, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like, it's being like humble in the way that I know I'm not perfect. I'm not here to be perfect. I don't think perfection exists. So let me just work with whatever I have right now. And it's a process of basically self improvement, but also without shaming or blaming yourself because who knows, we don't know a lot of things. There's so many things we don't know and we're just here to explore it. So you just have to do
Mm-hmm.
it with compassion, and the
Mm-hmm.
less critical you are of yourself, the better. That's my take on it. But everybody has their own habits, their own um ways to, let's say if you want to do sports, like you have to choose the sport that you enjoy the most, right, to keep going. The same
Mm-hmm.
with a profession. Like if you hate your job, like how it's really derailing on your mental health. That's what I've been through, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate it, but it was just like not my thing at the time that I was doing it. So now
Yeah.
definitely happier. So that's the process. I don't know the solution, but I can guide you to that
Yeah.
solution by just asking the questions, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, our jobs are so similar, I'm realizing now.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not gonna tell you I don't know who the perfect person for you is. I don't know what you're supposed to specifically do in order to find the perfect person or be with the perfect person, but I can help guide you so that you can then figure that out for yourself. And I love the approach that you take as well, because it sounds like you're giving them so much support and guidance, and maybe even like probably actually not maybe definitely a lot of like strategies along the way that then allows the person to even be autonomous in the future. Like if this relationship doesn't work out, obviously they can come back to you. But at the same time, it sounds like so much of the support that you're giving them, um, they might even be able to figure it out on their own now that they've kind of been through this process with you of like knowing what to look for, knowing how to present yourself, knowing to not expect perfection out of people. And that's a really big one. That's a huge one. I love that you brought that up because, and if she listens to this, she'll know who she is. But one of my good friends here, we have this discussion all the time of like, not looking for someone that's perfect. And I suffered from that as well. With even though I was in a relationship, my expectations of my partner were absurd. Like it was like a fantasy Cinderella world, the expectations that
Right.
I had on him. And it gets tricky because we want someone to be, I think in modern age, I honestly think that dating and relationships in general are quite challenging because we want someone to court us and make us feel special, and we want them to be fun, and we want them to be interesting, and we want them to be financially stable and ambitious and all the things, but we also want them to be a good partner and a good friend and a good lover. And it's like that's a lot of things for one person to be. And also, this person doesn't exist to serve your needs. They are their own human being as well that are going through their own struggles and difficulties and learning processes. And so I love what you were saying about compassion and accepting yourself, because it's true. Like the more that you learn to accept yourself and be compassionate with yourself and be forgiving with yourself, the more you extend that same sort of grace to somebody else. Not to say that you'll put up with like, you know, crappy behavior, but you might be you might open yourself up to meeting someone that you maybe would have never expected to end up with. And
Right.
that's the beauty, is like when you actually do get to create a connection with someone that's way deeper than like you said, like the checklist of like kind of the superficial things, right?
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
just have to understand everybody's going through their own struggles, but I
Yeah.
think it's important to be yourself and to let that person be themselves, even though at first, like, you probably have a certain fantasy of what that person is, but then with
Hmm.
time, you kind of maybe see all the parts, and that person might not even know about them, So
Yeah.
that person is in the process of self-discovering himself or herself, and
Yeah.
that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this. I've told a few clients of mine to go find a matchmaker, not even just thinking like, oh, it's just someone that's going to help you find someone, right? Not understanding. And I don't know if everyone has a holistic approach the way that you do, but now even more so, I'm going to tell my clients, go hire a good matchmaker that has a holistic approach, especially for people that have really intense careers or, like you said, just don't have the time. And it is challenging, like like right now, I'm super focused and dedicated on my career. And I'm like, wow, thank God I already have someone, because I wouldn't have the time to go date and meet
Right.
people and chat with people. It's impossible. Like, and then it's hard because then when you have less time, you put so much pressure on those like one, two, or three people that you meet and date in a year. And I don't know, like it takes a long time to find someone that's right for you. It can take a long time, not necessarily.
I would say go and find an ethical matchmaker. So I was actually
Mm.
on the Matchmaker Alliance. It's an event that happens once a year, and it's 110 or 105 people from all over the world, and we consider ourselves ethical matchmakers. Not that we're saying everybody else is unethical, but it's
Yeah.
more about trying to invite the ethical ones that are transparent, honest with their clients. They manage the client's expectations and give feedback. So it's like a private club. So I actually have access to it. And we also try to connect our clients, if we feel like there's going to be a match. So
Mm.
that's, I would say, unfortunately, in this industry, not everybody is
Yeah.
ethical, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a very vulnerable journey. Like, you can sell to a woman that is currently looking for somebody because she is in a certain age, and not consider all the factors that she might have certain trauma, or
Mm.
she should better work with a therapist first, and all these factors. Like, that's what we get training on, is to not only just take on any client, but also take on a client that you think you can help,
Mhm,
right? I
mhm,
mean, and then also, like, I would say the super big firms, I'm not saying they're, I don't know all of them how they work, but they might be based on the volume, right?
mm.
So it might work sometimes, it might not work because you, for them, you're just a number. So I think it's better to hire like a small company because the smaller firms, they make more impact.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the coaching world has a very similar dilemma. I think the therapy world does as well. So,
Right.
what are some like green flags that someone, like, how does someone know if they're interacting with an ethical matchmaker?
I think you just have to feel it in your gut, first of all, but also the ethical one will listen to your story and not try to use it as a like manipulation in a way that
Mm.
they will, let's say somebody's single at 39 and they will say, but you're 39, look, like basically trying to
Oh,
shame you
right.
through the tools of like selling, through kind of like shaming, or like if
Right.
you don't feel good talking to that person, you're not able to be vulnerable and open up. That's number one,
Hmm.
I would say. Number two, they will give you the ethical ones. They will give you some suggestions, some solutions, and they will be transparent about their process. It will might not be only one call where they're trying to close you. It might be a couple of calls where they're actually trying to figure out what your story is, how they can help you, what's the strategy. They might present you with, that's the ethical one. It's not about because reputation is everything, right? We don't
Yeah.
want to take on clients that we're going to promise the world and then we are not able to deliver. We want to take
Yeah.
the clients that we are able to help. Let's say, even if it doesn't work, just like coaching, right? Even if it doesn't work 100%, they will not be able to find you that match. You
Yeah.
might use those tools that you've been through the process to find yourself a match. It happened to me multiple times where the clients that I was like they didn't sign, or they signed and then they found somebody because they were went through the process of like figuring out who they're looking for. And I've had it happen to me that they had to, you know what, after I talked to you in a couple of weeks, I started dating somebody. So that's great, so
Wow.
you put
Yeah.
your focus into it. And I'm not going to be here to say, oh no, that's not going to work, you should come and do. And now I'll be
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that's amazing, go explore that connection. If you have any questions, if you need any help or anything,
Right.
I can try to help you, but
Right.
go and explore that. So I
Yeah.
think there's a way to be able to be transparent, and they will give you some solutions. And um, yeah, that's one way to
Yeah.
figure it out.
That makes a lot of sense. Like just the whole idea of like, and I think similar with the coaching world, I guess this will be my chance to put out this disclaimer for both of our professions, but it's like if you, especially with the work that we do, right? This isn't like getting your taxes done. Like, yeah, an accountant can do your taxes and can guarantee you a result. Like that's straightforward math. But for the work that we do, if anyone is guaranteeing you that you will find the love of your life by working with them, or that you will fix your mental health, or that you will, whatever it is, like when it comes to emotional issues or, emotional goals and results, like if anyone guarantees that to you, that's a big red flag.
Right.
If anything, they'll let you know. If anything, I like what you said of like just having very realistic expectations. Like, I'm going to help you, I'm going to guide you. If at any point my guidance doesn't feel supportive, let me know. But that's literally as much as I can do. And not because I don't want to do more, but because I'm aware of what I have control over. And I'm aware that I don't have control over finding you the perfect person or whatever.
Right, right. It's a process. It's a
Yeah,
process. Yeah.
that's amazing. Thank you so much. Is there any last advice that you would like to give to someone who's feeling discouraged in their search for love?
Sure. I think it's if you're not able to hire a matchmaker, if that's too big of an investment for you, or a dating coach, right? Then become your own matchmaker. And actually, I'm gonna start making reels about that in my
Mm,
Instagram, so you can follow it. It's free advice,
yeah.
free tips how to become your own matchmaker, and just not be ashamed of the fact that you're single. Treat yourself with humor and entertainment. It's a process. It's not about the result. It's about the process.
Hmm.
As long as you're open to learn and give yourself, you know, feedback and be like, that's how you improve, right? In any process
Hmm.
is by
Hmm.
seeing like what's going on. But professional is an investment, right? So it might um it might change your life. So
Yeah. Yeah. I always say, I was saying to someone yesterday, I'm like, listen, if finances isn't an issue for you, invest. Invest, especially in the moment when things are challenging, when you're feeling low, when you're feeling like, oh my God, this is never going to work out for me. Like, I feel like those are the moments when you invest in someone because sometimes you need someone else to hold that hope for you that you've maybe like lost along the way. Because dating really is difficult. Like you have to put yourself out there. If you want to create a real connection, you need to be vulnerable. And so it's inevitable that if it doesn't work out, you're going to be hurt. And then you have to like, you know, um, help yourself, kind of cuddle yourself back to feeling okay enough to then put yourself back out on the dating market. It's a very emotional process, I would imagine. So definitely having someone like you that like helps them along the way, I think is so valuable.
absolutely. Well, same with
Yeah.
you. You help foster meaningful relationships, meaning
Yeah.
like in the process. So that's very, very helpful. And
Yeah.
any profession that has to do with some kind of symbiosis with mental health or helping with the future or helping
Hmm.
with finding the right person, because sometimes what happens a lot with my clients, they tell me I want this, and then I find them that person just to tell like this is the person that you're
Yeah.
looking for, and they're
Yeah.
disappointed. And that's part of the process,
Yeah.
because that's when they realize, no, I actually don't want it. So let me hear you out, right?
Right. Right.
So it's I'm doing it to show them like, let's see what matters. What are the values you're looking for, not how they look.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Because
no.
honestly,
Mhm.
when you're in a relationship with someone for a while, how they look really doesn't matter sometimes. Like when they're pissing you off or you're in a situation that's really challenging and you need someone that can be there for you, the way that they look or how tall they are or whether they have whatever really doesn't matter. It's like, are you able to be there for me in those moments that are hard? Are you able to show up for me? Are you able to communicate about things? Like those are the things that allow you to, want to keep being with this person. Also,
Exactly.
people's bodies change over the years, so it's like that's not a
And bank
guarantee.
account amounts too.
Bank accounts amounts also can change significantly. Yeah. Imagine you start dating a guy that's like super wealthy, and then before you know it, he's like, actually, I'm gonna quit my corporate job and go be an entrepreneur and like struggle for a few years. Like, that's a
Or
whole different.
meditate in Bali, right? And then just
Sure.
with all of that. Yeah, and by the
Yeah.
way, it's about the long-term characteristics, not the short-term chemistry. And um, one more advice, don't chase
Yeah.
chemistry, chase
Mm.
the character, right? So the long-term vision. And I hear it all the time. We don't have chemistry, we don't have chemistry, but chemistry develops over time sometimes because you let
Yeah.
the person, step into themselves, and you are who you are, and maybe that's the most genuine connection, and you will feel amazing. So
That's such a great last piece of advice. I love it. Thank you for including that in there.
course.
Where can our listeners find you?
So my biggest, I think, following where you can find me where I'm more active is Instagram. It's Miss Ginger and wait, Miss Ginger NYC.
I think it's Miss NYC
Yeah, I was
Ginger,
like,
but
oh,
it'll be
yeah.
in the show notes. Don't worry.
Okay, Miss NYC Ginger. You see, it's MS NYC Ginger. Yeah. So
Amazing.
behind it, the logic behind it, I used to be much more Ginger when I was younger, and just my last name is not very pronounceable, so I changed it to Ginger. So NYC is for New York City, Miss
Makes
NYC
sense.
Ginger. Yeah.
Makes sense. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. This was so insightful. Thank you everyone for listening and for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please do all the things like subscribe. And you can also sign up for a weekly newsletter where I send out weekly blogs to help you stay inspired and connected on your journey to love and empowerment. So thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.